Hello, hello, hello. I am the Linux Mensch. Last year, in the month of May, I did a video about Endeavour OS. And at the end of it, I was very critical. As a matter of fact, out of all my distro reviews, that's the most critical I've ever been. And since a year has gone by, I thought I'd try it again. Now, Endeavour OS is based on Arch Linux. It's supposed to be user-friendly, easy to install. So, let's get to it. So I'm at the Endeavour website, and they released Gemini a month ago. So I'm just going to click on download, and it takes you here. So the thing is they don't have a lot of mirrors. Arch Linux, if you go into the mirror list, there's 800 lines. Or actually, there's 900 lines, but it's counting all the spaces, so there's probably about 800 mirrors for Arch Linux around the whole world. But here, they don't have any mirrors for Canada, apparently. They have USA. So I click on download, and it's going to download the ISO. So it tells you right here, Endeavour OS Gemini was released April 20th, 2024. So I'm going to close my web browser. I'm going to stop this download because you know what? I already downloaded it. And I'm going to close my web browser, and I'm going to open up Burp Manager, and I'm going to make a new virtual machine. I'm going to go forward, browse. I'm going to browse to my download folder, click on Endeavour OS, was 2.9 gigabytes. And I'm going to click on here. I'm going to type in Endeavour, and it doesn't come up. Let's just type in Arch. Let's go forward. Let's change this to 49. Actually, 4 gigs of RAM. Let's change the CPUs to 4. Let's go forward. Let's change the hard drive to 50 gigs. Let's go forward. Let's change the name to Endeavour. And let's finish it. So it's starting. I created a virtual machine, and we're going to log into the live environment of Endeavour OS. Let's hit enter. And let's make this full screen. And I'm just going to pause the video and come back when we've booted into the live environment. Okay, so we booted into live environment, and this welcome screen comes up. And I'm going to just minimize that, and I'm going to fix the display. Configure display settings. And let's change this to, I always make my virtual machines 1360 by 768. Let's close that. Oh, keep it. Yeah, I want to keep it. And let's close it. And let's go back to this menu. And let's click on this one. Update mirrors arch reflector. Let's do that one. So if I click it on, nothing happened. Oh, there it is. Oh, and it has Canada automatically selected. So I'm going to click OK. And there we go. So let's save it. Let's start the installer. So in the installer, you have two options. You have an online and an offline. If you do the offline one, which is this one here, you don't need internet connection. And you might want to do that if you have wireless, and if you're having trouble setting up your wireless, you might want to do an offline installation. Now, if you do the offline installation, it's going to automatically install the KDE desktop environment. You won't have any choice. And you're going to have to do an update. Now, this ISO is from April 20th. So tomorrow, today's May 19th. So tomorrow, the ISO will be a month old. So for Arch Linux, a month is a long time to go without updating. So you're probably going to have about 1,000 packages to update or files to update. And then the online version, it's going to give you an option of choosing which desktop environment you want to install. And when you finish your installation, you won't have to update the system. When you're installing Pure Arch Linux, regardless of whether you're installing it the old-fashioned manual way by typing in the commands in the TTY, or using the 2 or 3-year-old, relatively new Arch Linux automated installer, it's called Arch Install. Regardless of whether you're using the Arch installer or doing it the manual way, you're always up to date when you finish your installation. But with Endeavour, we have these two options. The offline, you're going to have to do an update after the fact. The online, you can choose your own desktop environment and you'll be up to date when you finish. So let's do the online. Because I have internet connection, I'm connected to the internet through Ethernet. I'm not using Wi-Fi. So it's saying, please wait. Okay. So now the Calamares installer has come up. It's recognizing American English. Let's click on next. And let's move my face a bit. It's recognizing my city that I live in. Let's click on next. Has my keyboard. Let's click on next. And now I'm going to choose a desktop environment. I'm going to choose GNOME. And let's click on next. And now it gives me a list of packages I can leave clicked on or unclick. I'm going to unclick the firewall because they install firewalled, and I don't like it. I like uncomplicated firewall. And I'm going to click on the long-term support kernel, printing support, HP printer scanner. And let's go next. I'm going to install grub. And it gives you the choice of manual partitioning or erase a disk. I'm going to erase a disk. Gives you a choice of ext4 or Btrfs. I'm going to do ext4. Gives you a choice of no swap, swap no hibernate, swap with hibernate, or swap to file. I'm just going to leave it on no swap because I never use swap. And I'm going to click on next. Now it's asking for my name, so I'm going to type in Mitch. The name of the computer is Endeavour. My password is going to be this. And I'm going to put it in again. And log in automatically without asking for the password. I'm going to leave it as no. And use the same password for administrator for sure. So let's click on next. And install. Install now. And it's going through the installation. It's probably going to take 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to pause the video and come back. Okay, so the installation finished. It took about 10 minutes. I'm going to click on restart. And let's say next. We're done. I guess you have to hit done. Now it looks like it's frozen. Well, there it goes. So let's see if we can reboot into the system. My installation is finished. And we're booting in. Let's click on enter. And let's make this full screen. And hopefully it's going to bring me to the display manager. And it did. And of course I installed GNOME rather than KDE. And it didn't give me the option to install on the window managers, so I can do that after the fact. And let's see what we have here. Well, let's do GNOME on Xorg. I like that. Put my password in. And let's bring my face. Oh, and it brings us to the welcome screen again. I'm just going to close that. Now, is there a way to click this so it doesn't come on after I boot into the system? Don't show me anymore. Yeah, I don't want to see this every time I boot into the system. Don't show me anymore. Let's click on display, and we only have to do this one more time. And let's change this to 1360 by 768. Keep the changes. And we are in GNOME. Now, let's see. It just seems to be a regular install. Let's open up a terminal. I wonder what terminal I'm in. Am I in the GNOME terminal? Now you can hear, I don't know if you can hear my cat meowing. She's standing outside the room. You gonna come in, Hopi? Come, Hope. So let's do an htop. Htop is not installed. Let's do sudo pacman. Let's see if we have to do an update. We shouldn't. Asking for my password. There's nothing to do. Okay. And yeah, I'm in GNOME console. So let's see if I can change this. Preferences. Let's see, I don't have any bolding. Let's do monospace 14. And there's no colors. I can't add any colors to this. Okay. Let's open that up again. Okay, that's not bad. Sudo pacman s htop. Put my password in. Let's install htop and see what we're running at. Let's do htop. So running at 822 megabytes of RAM, which is not bad for GNOME. That's not bad at all. Sudo pacman s qtile and awesome. Git. Let's do that. Enter. So we're installing the awesome window manager, qtile, and Git. And I'm not going to install my configuration files in here. Oh, that's fast. I'm not going to install my configuration files for awesome and qtile. And see if we have xterm here. It said xterm was installed. And there it is there. That's xterm without my configuration file. That's the way xterm looks. If you don't configure it. So, I mean, it has nice wallpaper. Let's open up see what kind of wallpapers they have. That's it. How about that, eh? Comes with one wallpaper? Oh, really disappointed it. I know wallpaper's not a big deal, but geez, one wallpaper. Now, I never used to be a GNOME person. I used to hate GNOME. And then now I like it, and I've been using it. Well, I'm still using the awesome window manager, and I'm still using qtile, but I'm also using GNOME. And installing GNOME in pure Arch Linux, installing GNOME in pure Arch Linux, it comes with about, I don't know, 8 wallpapers. This is like, come on, give me a break. Anyways, I should make a big deal about wallpaper, right? So really, there's not a lot to look at. It's a base system based on Arch Linux. Also, I'm going to install a firewall. Now, usually in my Arch Linux system, I install uncomplicated firewall. But today, I'm going to install G uncomplicated firewall, which is just a GUI version of it. So sudo pacman s. So usually I just install this one in my Arch Linux system, and in the terminal I make all the settings in the terminal. But just for being easy, I'm going to do the G uncomplicated firewall. And actually, in my Arch Linux system, when I install uncomplicated firewall, I don't have to make settings in the terminal, because actually I install it in a TTY, and I install my auto app files and my auto run files from my GitLab repository, and they set the firewall settings for me automatically. But I'm not going to download my GitLab today, and for ease of purpose or ease of use, I'm just going to do G uncomplicated firewall, which is just the GUI version of it. I'm going to put my password in, and of course, like I said before, Endeavour comes with firewalled, and I think that's really hard. I never really used it. I played with it once, and I thought, I can't figure this out. So maybe it's a better firewall. I don't know. I'm not a security expert, but I didn't like it. I always use uncomplicated firewall. So let's close the terminal. And let's go to firewall. Let's click it on. Let's put my password in. And let's just toggle it on. There we go. The firewall is set. So what I'm going to do is log out. And I'm going to move my face. Click that. And I'm going to click that on. So now we see we have the choice of Awesome, GNOME, GNOME on Xorg, Qtile, or Qtile on Wayland. Let's click on Qtile. Let's put my password in. And now we're in Qtile. And of course, we're not in Qtile with my Qtile configuration file, right? We're in Qtile, default Qtile that comes with any Arch-based system or pure Arch. So I'm going to hold the mod key down and hit enter. And there's my terminal. Let's do an htop. Oh, that's so dark you can hardly see it. We're running at 308 megabytes of RAM. Let's do mod key. Well, mod key R. Let's type in xterm. Well, that's not great either, but at least you can read it. Let's do an htop. So running at 298 megabytes of RAM. Not bad. Let's quit out of there. And let's just shut down. It's not going to shut the machine down. It's just going to get me out of Qtile because I'm not using my Qtile configuration file. I'm using the default one. Let's click that on. So let's click on Awesome. And let's type in our password. Now, one thing I do like about this display manager, it has an eye here. So you can click on the eye to make sure you typed in the password correctly. So let's do that. Let's click on the eye. And there it is. DT. I put my ooh. I just told you what my password is. Anyways, let's hide it. And let's log in. Now we're in the awesome window manager. And of course, this is the default awesome window manager. It's not the my configuration of the awesome window manager. Let's open up a terminal. Ooh, that's small. Let's do htop. And we're running at 284 megabytes of RAM. Let's quit out of there. Let's close that. We could do an xrandr s 1360 by 768. Let's hit enter. There we go. Let's close it. And let's quit. Now you can see the menu is small. It doesn't have all my apps in there because this is the default awesome window manager configuration file that comes with Arch Linux. So let's get out of there. Let's quit. Let's go back to the display manager. And let's click on GNOME on Xorg. Let's put my password in. See if I spelled it right. DT. Yes, I did. Okay, so I like this I. It works good. Let's hit enter. And now we're logging back into the GNOME desktop environment. And let's bring my paste down. It's taking a long time to get in there. Wonder why I'm not getting in. GNOME desktop environment's not opening up. So what I'm going to do is drop down to a TTY. And if this is a virtual machine, normally I would do Control Alt F2, F3, F4. But because it's a virtual machine, I have to do it this way. So let's drop down to Control Alt F3. Log in as root. I'm going to type in kill all xorg. And I'm going to exit. There we go. Let's go back to, where was I, F3? Yeah, let's exit out of root. Let's go back to Control Alt F1. And let's try that again. Let's make sure we're on GNOME on Xorg. Yep. And let's put my password in. Let's see if we can get in. There we go. And now we're back in GNOME. Let's click on the file manager. Let's maximize it. Ooh. Oh, that's better. Let's click off the dark style. That's nice too. And let's close it. And that is Endeavour OS. In this video, I took you to the Endeavour website and showed you where the ISO is to download it. I even showed you how I create a virtual machine using Virt Manager. I went through an installation, and I did a brief tour of Endeavour OS. Now, I know I didn't do a large tour because there's really not a lot to show, because Endeavour is basically, it's supposed to be an easy way to install Arch Linux. It's a distribution, and it's not just an installer, it's a distribution based on Arch Linux. It uses the Calamares installer, and it's an easy way to install Arch Linux, or a distribution based on Arch Linux, and it's pretty bare bones. But if you install pure Arch Linux, it's bare bones too. So you probably noticed that the day has changed. So I recorded the video on Sunday. And on Sunday, I only did half of my conclusion because I realized I made some mistakes. So today is Monday, and I'm going to finish my conclusion. So when I was going to download the ISO on the camera, I noticed there was no mirrors from Canada, and there was only one mirror from the United States. And I made a big deal about that. However, when I went to do the install on camera, and if you watched the whole video, you saw it, when you're doing your install from the live ISO, it does have mirrors from all over the world, and I was able to select mirrors from Canada. So it only has the limited mirrors when you're downloading the ISO, but when you go to do the install, you can pick the mirror from your favorite country. Okay? Now, the other thing is that when I was doing the installation on camera, I didn't notice the ability to do encryption. And I made a big deal about that in my conclusion, but I cut that part out because I was wrong. So during my video, I made a big deal that Endeavour doesn't give you the ability to encrypt your installation while you're doing your install. And I really made a big deal about it, but I was wrong. Because if you look right here, all you got to do is click this on, and it will encrypt your install while you're going through your installation. But I didn't notice it, and I didn't see it. So that's another reason why I'm changing my conclusion today. Now, another thing is during installation, I didn't see the option to install window managers in the installer, but you can do it after the fact. And another thing is that when you're in pure Arch Linux and you just type in sudo pacman -syu space GNOME. It installs the full pure Arch Linux. It will install the full GNOME package, which means you get classic GNOME and modern GNOME. But this installation didn't do that. It just installed the modern GNOME. And some people like classic GNOME. And another thing happened during the video when I was jumping back and forth between window managers and the GNOME desktop environment. It wouldn't log into GNOME. I had a black screen, and I had to drop down to the TTY and kill Xorg in order to get back into the GNOME desktop environment. Now, I just want to let you know that was not the fault of Endeavour, because that happens to me in pure Arch as well. So in my bare metal computer, the one I do my recording in, this computer, I have Qtile, the awesome window manager, Cinnamon desktop, and the GNOME desktop environment. And that happens to me quite often when I'm jumping back and forth between my window managers and going back into GNOME. I get the black screen of death, and I have to drop down to the TTY and kill Xorg to get back into GNOME. And that happens to me on this computer, which is a bare metal computer and is running pure Arch Linux. So I didn't want you to think that that was a problem with Endeavour. So having said all that, I think that Endeavour is a good system to use. Personally, I wouldn't use it myself because I'd rather use pure Arch Linux, by the way. But I do think Endeavour is a good system. And if you want an easy to install distribution that's based on Arch Linux and is not bloated, I would recommend Endeavour. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I am the Linux Mensch.